Hello. So, I just wanted to share something real quick. My perspective on reality. Everything in reality is consciousness. If you wanted to define consciousness, I would say that it is flowing energy or electromagnetism down to the finest levels, and that awareness is essentially being aware of those energies and how they flow. So, that's like essentially the difference between consciousness and conscious awareness. Right, so this right here, this video, is all about this little thing right here. It's a star in a jar, and essentially, this is a excellent display for electromagnetism. So what you're seeing is, in a vacuum, there are two conductive rings, and they're opposing each other on angles, so they're at 90-degree offsets, right? I love this song. And what that is doing is, if you wanted to visualize this happening in your body, how this brilliant light happens to occur, think about it like these are the chakras in your body: acceptance and survival, will, which is breath, creativity, heart, which is emotional determination, the communication, words, the imagination, and the universal harmony. So imagine in an instance where you don't feel very creative, right? So your creativity is not exposed, and huge pressure comes crushing in from the outside. That's like the electromagnetic field of the outer ring. Now, if this pushes into alignment, what this ring does when energy goes through it is actually creates a bubble to resist this crushing effect. So what you're seeing in the video is the outer ring is the one that's inducing all of the charge, and it pushes it inward, and because the inner ring has to exhibit a magnetic field, but because it's at a 90-degree angle by geometry, it can't push past this because electromagnetic fields don't cross. So if they're at a perpendicular angle, they literally remain in flux, like two magnets. If they're held against their poles, right, they create a torsion or a torque. So that's what you're seeing is light is actually at the very center being spun this way, right, and this way, as well as this way. So you get a hologram, you get light. Now this happens at various aspects of your body, because you can also imagine that your heart and your communication are very similar. Your heart, your words, your determination, your emotions rush inwards on your ability to communicate or transform your environment or convey information. So transceive thought and energy is what the heart does. It receives and transmits. And if it is in alignment where all of the energy that's flowing into your throat chakra is perfectly aligned, it's perpendicular to the outer ring, right? The heart, which is pushing inwards, all of a sudden, now you get male and female pairing again, and you get another hologram. And it's the same thing with the center here. So if you had your imagination and universal harmony, if those are in alignment, right, that's your spiritual power. That's what we call that. So when you're looking at your influence on the environment and your spirit, that's essentially that's the light that's created by these two electromagnetic fields being in alignment. So things like your vision, things like your empowerment, things like your inspiration and your creativity, right? They're all light that's created by electromagnetic fields or energies that are interacting with one another. That's what gives rise to the desire to do something, is a thought. or a physical sensation, which is, again, it's energy moving. A sensation is energy moving. A thought is hyperdimensional energy moving. So it's just a matter of scale. So when you're looking at this, the human body produces enormous amounts of light, enormous amounts of brilliance, enormous amounts of radiance. Because you have to understand, every time these rings cross, it's multiplied by itself. Because this ring, right, this ring here, is actually feeding all of the power that's going into this ring. And this ring is twisting against itself. So it's creating a torque. That's the E equals mc squared. And then it's squared again, and it's squared again, and it's squared again, and it's squared again. So it would be like 2 to the power of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? By the time you get to the very center, the power or the luminosity is exponentially increased. That's why a quasar is literally the brightest thing in the entire universe, because it has this axial alignment. It actually forms an accretion disk, and it actually forms a light, right? It forms a quasar that moves into and implodes and moves out of and explodes. So when you're looking at these energies, it's just a matter of scale. You breathe in oxygen, it's a charged particle. A quasar breathes in suns, which are charged particles from a certain perspective. Electromagnetic rings into alignment, you are a electromagnetic copy of the universe. So if you put yourself into alignment, right, perpendicular alignment with the universe, so that all the energy that gets flowing through you is used in your favor. As it passes, it works for you. As it passes, that's what's happening in every dimension. It's being utilized twice. Once masculine, once feminine, once masculine, once feminine, once masculine, once feminine. And it keeps getting brighter and brighter and more condensed, more and more concentrated, more and more brilliant. And that's the idea, is AMP is an organization to increase this masculine, feminine alignment, which is energy. It's not about gender. It's about the energy that human bodies and human minds and human hearts generate. And taking these energies, putting them into their alignment, and giving them their opportunity to experience the maximum luminosity, the maximum brilliance that human beings are capable of. And that's what this whole organization is about. That's what my whole life has been about, is to show people how energy moves and how they can use it to empower themselves as well as the people around them to better their lives and better the environment, because that is husbandry, the love, care, and cultivation of life, which is energy, which is harmony. So this is me loving you, because it seems like there's not quite enough love, and there's definitely not enough valuable knowledge about how brilliant you are. And there's a proven science that proves, if you look at astrophysics, all you want, it proves that the human body is literally the brightest thing in the universe on our dimension, right? The only thing brighter than human is the quasar, and you need to be a black hole in space in order to be a quasar. So I think I'll just stick with being human for now. It seems pretty cool. So I hope you guys find your brilliance, you find your alignment, so that you can bring your brightest self, your light, into the brightest luminosity. There's no fuel that's required. It's a choice.